nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos has had its own fair share of shameless cult battles. In some places, such as Ikorodu, Shomolu, Bariga, Mushin, and Ojota, among others, their activities have become a source of worry to citizens. In an effort to frontally tackle the menace in the state, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu recently signed the bill for the prohibition of unlawful societies and cultism of 2021 into law, approving a 21-year jail term for convicted cultists in the state. The new law also sought to make parents to show more interest in the upbringing of their children and wards and ensure they do not become a burden to the society. How effective is the enforcement of this law in taming the menace of cultism in the state? Is the society doing enough in addressing the scourge? These and more pertinent issues will be discussed in Panorama today, coming to you live from the Lagos Network Center of the Nigerian Television Authority. I am Adeola Komi-Akere. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, has extended a formal invitation to President Muhammadu Buhari to the 75th anniversary of its founding, scheduled for November in Paris, France. Director General of the organization, Audrey Azoulay,
Apologize for that break in transmission. It's due to a technical hitch. The First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Buhari, and the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, are seeking to scale up intervention aimed at improving girl-child education and the education of other less privileged children in line with Sustainable Development Goals. This was part of the outcome of the meeting between the First Lady of Nigeria and the Director General of UNESCO, Audrey Azoulay. State House correspondent Aliu Kabir reports.
The Director General of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, was on a courtesy call on the First Lady at the sideline of the 33rd International Coordinating Council of UNESCO Man and the Biosphere program currently taking place in Abuja. The First Lady has told the DG on the giant stride of the Future Assured program under the Aisha Buhari Foundation, particularly the tremendous success in the areas of improving the education, health and the general well-being of women and children. Mrs. Buhari added that our focus is to accelerate an effort towards equipping Nigerian women, youth and children with quality education for a better future as one of the cardinal objectives of the Aisha Buhari Foundation.
I am glad to inform you that education is one of my foundation's areas of focus. Promoting girl-child education and educating less privileged children are major parts of my foundation's activities. I am pleased to inform you that I've just built a school in Maiduguri, Borno State, to cater for the needs of the teeming population of orphans and other victims of insurgency in the state. The aim is to provide such children with opportunity to have access to quality education that will transform and prepare them for productive life.
The Director General has commended the First Lady for the support she has been given to the less privileged and urged her to sustain the tempo and ensure everybody is getting involved in the protection of nature and sustainable economy.
Your commitment to health issue, to children, to education, to women's and children's rights. And one of the challenges that touches upon all these issues is the question of biodiversity and the loss of biodiversity and the consequences it has on the most vulnerable.
Highlight of the event was the presentation of a handmade traditional attires showcasing the occupation and the rich cultural heritage of the country. From the State House, Aliu Kabir, NTA News.
That was a meeting between the First Lady and UNESCO DG Audrey Azoulay, and we'll rejoin Lagos for the rest on Panorama.
President Muhammadu Buhari Monday evening granted audience to his Sierra Leonean counterpart, President Julius Maada Bio. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the Sierra Leonean president is in Abuja on a two-day private visit. The two leaders met behind closed doors for about 1 hour, but details of their discussions were not made public. The last formal engagement between President Muhammadu Buhari and the Sierra Leonean leader was in September 2019 on the margins of the UN General Assembly in New York.
The Director General of UNESCO, Audrey Azoulay, is in Abuja for the 33rd session of the International Coordinating Council of the Man and the Biosphere Program. She was in the State House to formally invite President Muhammadu Buhari for the 75th anniversary celebration of the organization in the French capital Paris in November this year.
So honored to have you. Okay. I'll talk to the ambassador, to your foreign minister, but it would be an honor to have you.
President Buhari and the UNESCO team had earlier discussed ways and means of enhancing the highly beneficial relationship between Nigeria and the UN organ. Records show that UNESCO has been committed to ensuring everyone's access to quality education, preserving cultural and natural heritage, protecting equal respect for all cultures and freedom of expression as a fundamental right and a necessary condition for democracy. Nigeria joined UNESCO in November 1960, becoming its 58th member state. It has 10 World Heritage Sites in the country, with Sukur Cultural Landscape in Adamawa State as the first landmark to be inscribed in 1999. The UNESCO Director General was accompanied to the State House by Nigeria's ambassador and permanent delegate to the organization, Dr. Hajo Sani. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
The president of African Development Bank Group, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, has received the Leadership Person of the Year award from the Leadership Newspaper Group in Nigeria. Vice President Yemi Oshibajo presented the award to Dr. Adesina, which was given in recognition of his impeccable public service record and extraordinary accomplishment in driving the growth and development of the African Development Bank Group. Meanwhile, the senior vice president of Leadership Group Limited, Azubike Ishekwene, made it known that in the past 5 years, during which Adesina has presided over the African Development Bank, conscious efforts have been made to rededicate the bank to its core philosophy of building today a better Africa tomorrow. And under the Light Up Africa project, the African Development Bank has a 10-year plan to drastically reduce the number of Africans who lack access to electricity. This is in addition to the fact that currently 645 million people lack access to electricity in Africa, and so far the bank has ensured 18 million people have been provided with electricity in Morocco, Ivory Coast, Ethiopia, Egypt, and other parts of the continent. Dr. Adesina was represented at the award ceremony by the Director General of the Bank Group's Nigeria Country Department, Lamin Barrow. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has re-echoed Nigeria's strength as a force to be reckoned with in an exclusive interview. He said Nigeria's strength on the African continent paved way for other African ministers attending the 64th UNWTO CAF meeting in Cape Verde to rally behind Nigeria's submissions as he further showcased other government programs and policies which sister African countries can benefit from. Anthony Forsen reports.
It is a tradition that at fora such as this, an agenda for deliberation is often set. But with hindsight, Lai Mohammed played up 3 issues: the liberalization of COVID-19 vaccine, airline connectivity within Africa, and travel advisory by developed countries.
The African ministers spoke with one voice to ask that there should be more equitable distribution of vaccines if we are going to revive the industry post-COVID. Of course, the issue of connectivity that I explained to you was also discussed, and it was resolved that it's a matter that African ministers should take up seriously, because as you can see, it will take us 3 days to get home, and this applies to virtually every African minister. As a matter of fact, it's easier to go through Madrid or through Lisbon from Cape Verde than to go through Dakar or go through Lomé. And of course, the issue of travel advisories was also discussed extensively. The second day was devoted really to investments, and we had many investors and many investing companies that came to Sao Island to see how they can invest in the tourism industry of the various countries.
Nigeria's creative industry, which is a strong selling point, was also played up.
We're talking about our music, we're talking about our films, we're talking about our architecture, we're talking about our museums. And here I was able to engage several prospective investors to come and invest, especially in production, in channels, and also in content development.
The ongoing digitization of the broadcast space in Nigeria, which is the pivot upon which the creative industry thrives, was put on the table for prospective investors.
With the DSO, we are confident not only of raising advert revenue from $300 million in 1 year to over $1 billion, but also we can create about 1 million jobs in the next 3 years, with the completion of DSO. So we marketed DSO really in the area of content development.
Anthony Forson, NTA News.
The Kogi State government has urged its citizens and other well-meaning Nigerians to volunteer useful information that will ensure the apprehension of the masterminds of the attack on Kaba Custodial Center by unidentified men. A statement signed by the State Commissioner for Information, Kingsley Femi Ifonwo, indicated that Governor Yahaya Bello expressed confidence on the ability of the security operatives to unmask the perpetrators of the attack. While affirming that many inmates have been rearrested, he said some have come back on their own volition. He urged traditional rulers and local hunters to work in synergy with security agencies to ensure normalcy. The governor assured the people of Kogi State and Kaba in particular of their safety and protection. The Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 says it is a criminal offense for any citizen to engage in selling or buying of COVID-19 vaccination cards. This is coming on the heels of reports that some persons who don't want to be vaccinated are inducing some health officials to procure the vaccination cards. Mitaire Ikme reports.
Efforts are ongoing to implement the policy on vaccine mandate for all federal public servants. This is to ensure safety in the workplace and at home.
Ahead of the federal government's plan to implement the Operation Show Your Vaccination Card policy, there are already attempts to cut corners on COVID-19 vaccination.
We have received reports of people trying to procure cards from health workers. These reports are being investigated, and anyone found wanting will be prosecuted. Any state found to be condoning these acts of corruption will no longer be allocated vaccines that are provided free of charge.
Vaccine mandate options being considered by the PSC in consultation with state governments include whether to compel citizens to show their vaccination cards for access to public places or get them to produce a negative COVID-19 test result on weekly or daily basis.
Nigeria has been lucky with a relatively low impact of COVID-19 so far, and we need to keep our preparedness optimal.
Concerning school resumption, The NCDC says it is ready to assist schools that show interest with kits for testing and case detection.
We also now have rapid antigen tests that we can test the whole school community in a single day and give every student a result in 15 minutes.
Meanwhile, Nigeria has removed India from its list of restricted countries following improvement in the COVID-19 situation in the Asian country. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
Now, the latest figures from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control shows that there are 387 new cases of COVID-19 from 16 states of the Federation, including the FCT. As at the 13th of September 2021. Lagos recorded the highest with 114 cases, Rivers 91, FCT 32, Edo 31, Delta 28, Kwara 20, Bayelsa 18, Akwa Ibom 15, Oyo 10, Osun 8, Gombe and Plateau have 5 cases each, Ekiti 4, Ogun 3, Kano 2, while Kaduna has 1 case. There are now 199,538 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, with 188,427 treated and discharged. And sadly, 2,619 deaths have been recorded across the country. Panorama on the network service of the NTA. Let's take a short break. More stories when we return.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
Thank you for staying with us. To a Lagosian, Lagos is a land of great opportunities. Little wonder it experiences great influx of people daily. However, the city in recent times has been bedeviled by a series of cult activities, thereby putting its residents in perpetual fear. Annie Daniels has details.
Ojota is a very popular part of Lagos. Every visitor into Lagos by road will surely go through Ojota, thereby making the area a business hub. However, the area in recent times has been in the news for the wrong reasons as a result of cult activities.
We just hear, they start to hear gun, we don't know how they get the gun.
12-year-old Michael is not oblivious of cult activities in Ojota. He and others like him reel out their fears.
18 to 20 years old, they're killing themselves, they're just wasting their life. Because, and some of them, after killing themselves, their mother will start crying.
Once the night is falling like this, anything can happen. And once it happens, everybody will be on the run.
They will use the opportunity to steal some people's properties.
Ojota residents now have their ears to the ground, knowing the boys can strike at any moment.
As you are talking to me now, you'll be checking your back. You'll be looking at, is somebody coming?
Like Ojota, Iwaya, Makoko and other parts of Lagos are not left out. Cultists are on rampage.
We don't normally sleep well because every day, every night, we just hear some guns.
Most of them came outside in this neighborhood to commit.
Now joining me live in the studio is Mr. Tony Ofoyeton, a security expert. He's to throw more light on the cultism. Thank you for joining us in Panorama.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, now we know that cultism in all its ramification has been described as deadly. Now, what do you think will lead a primary school pupil to join a cult group?
Well, I think I will start from the home front. Many a times we parents shift our responsibilities to the school and teachers and the society. So you see that when the center is broken at home, definitely you will discover that there will be a lot of disconnection and a lot of wire that ought to connect the child to a lot of positive things in the society would have been disconnected from that child. Without prejudice to those that are polygamous, if we look at the issue of polygamy, you look at the issue of broken homes, these are some of the factors. We have parents that are not very, they are relatively careless concerning the upbringing of their children. Poverty is also one of such, though not an excuse, because we know very well that there are some of us that came from very low background and are not cultists. So if you look at it from that very base, you will see that the main problem starts from the home front. Now, before we now go to the larger society, at the larger level, we discover that our value system is not defective. We place more value and prime on wealth, material things. When we were growing up, the virtue was basically on integrity, on maintaining a good name for yourself and for your family. There's a family name, and that family name, once you rubbish it, it's your right from that family you'll be dealt with. You become an outcast. So everybody wants to protect that family name. And that was how we grew up. Unfortunately, at a time when we began to idolize money and material wealth, when it came to a situation where you now push your children out and say, whatever it takes to make wealth, go and get it.
Okay. Now, we know all of this now. Is society doing enough to curb this menace? What do you think would be the solution to put a stop to this?
I think, well, the first thing is let us understand the fact that as it is now, it's a major pandemic. And if it's a major pandemic, then all hands must be on deck, right from the family level, from the government. The government itself must be very deliberate. There are signs and symptoms. There are even, things you see, you know that this child is most likely disconnected from the true reality of being a good child, let me put it like that. Now, if you look at a child who ordinarily is not old enough to do some things, doing it, smoking, drinking, dressing in specific ways, withdrawing to himself or herself, look at the group of people that child moves with, then you know that these are telltale signs. At parental level, at government level, there are hideouts that are very conspicuous. They are not hidden. It's just that the government should not make up its mind whether to deal with those places or not. There are hotspots. They have a place they gather.
Yes.
So if you are able to watch those places and you are able to apprehend them and you are able to make a scapegoat out of them, but such scapegoat should be such that is reparatory, not destructive. I think this would really go a long way in helping the situation.
Okay, Doctor, before I let you go, just recently the Lagos State government passed into law a bill, against cultism. So it's 21-year jail term, and even their parents who know that their children are in cults, still have their own, should I say, punishment? Yes. Do you think the enforcement and implementation of this will do anything good?
Well, except for the fact that maybe we don't have much time on this program. I would have wanted us to look at what is the definition of cultism. Now, that will now come to whether that law is implementable. Because it will shock you that at times, those that ought to implement the law are even members of cults. So at times, if we look at this thing in a holistic manner, then we ask, what is the true definition of cultism in contradistinction to association and all those stuff like that? Because if you ask me, 21-year jail term is not a legislation that should really help when it comes to street cultism and all those stuff like that. But it's a good thing that we are getting started. Whether it can be implemented is a different ballgame.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tony Ofoyeton.
It's my pleasure.
Time will not afford us to talk more on this, but we thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
This is still Panorama. We'll take sports updates.
Participating teams, including the host, the Super Falcons of Nigeria, are putting finishing touches to their preparations ahead of the maiden Aisha Buhari Cup, which will kick off Wednesday shortly after the opening ceremony. The Falcons will take on the female Eagles of Mali in the opening match at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena, Lagos at 4 p.m.
It's been about playing Ghana in the first round in October. And so, you know, the results are important. They're not everything, but I think obviously every time we step on the field, we want to win.
We're just going to play our own football, play our own style of game, try to enjoy ourselves and try to make sure we improve because that's what we want to achieve.
In another news, the group stages of the UEFA Champions League kick off Tuesday. Manchester City will take on Leipzig, Liverpool against AC Milan on Wednesday, while Barcelona lock arms with Bayern Munich on Tuesday. Same for Chelsea, that will entertain Zenit St. Petersburg, among other matches. Similarly, the Europa Cup fixtures slated for Wednesday and Thursday show that Leicester City takes on Napoli, Olympiacos will trade tackles with Antwerp as PSV confronts Real Sociedad. In volleyball, Cameroon takes on Tunisia in the final match of the ongoing CAVB Men's Nations Cup in Kigali, Rwanda Tuesday at the Kigali Arena. Cameroon beat at fighting Morocco 3-2 to reach the final, while Tunisia triumphed over Egypt 3-1. Cameroon and Tunisia.
And that's Panorama. I came to you from the Lagos Network Center of the Nigerian Television Authority. I am Adeola Komiakere.